Hi, today's picks are all different and all pretty darn cool in their own right. We'll tackle a third-person sci-fi spaceship shooter that is sadly long forgotten, an on-rail shooting pioneer that was better than it had any right to be given when it released, a creature-capturing console RPG, one of the best often overlooked 2D platformers, and hands down the best pinball game/engine ever made. So let's jump straight in. Evil Core: The Fallen Cities is definitely a treat to any and all fans of sci-fi games and titles like Descent or even Frontier and Wing Commander to some degree too. It's an action-packed, beautiful for the time shooter that will keep you glued to your screen all throughout its spectacular run. But let's start where appropriate, so at the very beginning. At the very beginning there was chaos. Then, in a span of what felt like 2 butterfly lives, we've evolved, invented sustainable fire, wheel, electricity, printing press, cars, planes, computers, the internet, spaceflight, and eventually, after another 3 or 4 of these metaphysical butterflies' deaths, in the year 20,000 AD, we've long abandoned Earth, destroyed by wars, famine and devoid of any resources, and conquered space. We've settled on a beautiful planet Melia and treat it much better than our original home. Well, we've been on Melia for at least 1 butterfly's life worth already, we've not devastated or destroyed it yet, which is a proof of our constant evolution and generational strive for the best. It also means that there are still some places on the planet that we've not fully explored. In fact, it is split in 2 main sectors. The old sector, and I'm sure you're fully aware what the others once called, that's right, the new sector. The first holds countless caves, chains of maze-like tunnels, mines, temples and ruins known as the titular Fallen Cities. And the second is where we settled. I say we, but people of 20,000 AD are not that similar to us at all. First of all, there are only 3 nations. And these are Bloblix, Enlef and Marks. Bloblix are largely peaceful and civilized, but had to develop some weapons for the defense purposes, given the unstable political situation on the planet. So while not proficient with their use, they are prepared for whatever might happen. Then there are the Enlef. You can't say that the weapons are new to them, as they've been torn by constant and never-ending hundreds of years of bloody civil wars. They argue, they fight internally, but they don't mess with the other factions. And finally the Marks. The Marks are the dicks. And that's what you should take out of it. They're the advanced, incredibly heavy-armed superpower kind of a faction, using chemical, biological and even nuclear weaponry when and how they see fit, and they are also bent on taking over the planet for themselves. So, you can bet your sweet ass that they're the troublemakers of Melia. As the game starts, a series of devastating and brutal attacks befall on innocent Melian cities, and by then the source of them is still unknown. Given the dire and clearly incredibly dangerous situation, Bloblix and Enlef ally against the yet unknown enemy. And Marks, well, I did say that they're dicks, right? You are Vein Black, known as such because of your love for the Klingon blood wine, and because you drink so much of it that your blood turned so dark that your veins are clearly visible through your skin all over your body. It may look a bit terrifying, but on the other hand the blood wine is so good. And also there are no laws prohibiting drinking and spaceship flying, so... cheers? Anyway, given that there are some odd signals coming from the Fallen Cities part of the old sector, you are enlisted to get there and scout out the area for the newly formed alliance. Evil Core is a third and first-person sci-fi shooter, and while you can switch between the viewpoints freely, I'd suggest sticking to the third-person perspective, as it's much more useful when navigating series of narrow corridors and tunnels. The game runs on a mission-based structure, meaning that you are assigned particular tasks and sent away to complete them. While each of the objectives will see you fighting against countless buddies, they are hardly only kill-all kinds of missions. In fact, you'll be doing quite a few other things too, like navigating mazes, seeking and acquiring light sources, disabling power plants, destroying nuclear devices, chasing buddies, and more. The variety of missions is definitely impressive, and along with what's happening between them, make Evil Core a lot of fun. You'll meet many different characters, learn of them and their backstories, form friendships and rivalries, trade and upgrade your ship, and even unveil a dark conspiracy. Which, while perhaps predictable, it's still fun to figure out in full and then prevent. Overall, Evil Core: Fallen Cities, at the time of its release, was a highly original and unique game. Because while it borrowed gameplay ideas from many others, it put them together in its own thing and played similarly to, but unlike any other title on the market. If you like fun 3D shooters with character and ship progression, then Evil Core is as fun today as it was in 1998. I believe that Creature Shock doesn't deserve the score that it received on MobyGames' website, even despite its unforgiving difficulty. It's one of the best and most fun on-rail FMV shooters ever made, and a fantastic time if you have a good mouse and enjoy those kinds of experiences. Not sure if it works with a light gun though, as I've never owned one, but if it does, it's gonna be hella fun. If it was up to me, I'd swap the numbers in Creature Shock's score from 6.7 to 7.6, and that would seem pretty fair to me, light gun or not. It's not, however, something I have any chance of changing myself though, so let's do it together. How about we all go to Moby Games website, logging and see if we could raise it just a tad. Even if you don't care for the genre or the game, it would be an interesting social experiment to see if a small group of like-minded folks could influence the overall score of it on the site. Creature Shock was one of the first CD-based full-motion video games, and to this day, it remains one of the most fun implementations of the Bound to Die of tech. The videos are used in both cutscenes and on-rail gameplay, and for the time of its release, the quality of them is rather stunning. The gameplay is divided into two portions: first-person perspective exploration and third-person spaceship combat. The first-person mode sees you navigate mazes of corridors inside an asteroid, killing any and all nightmare-like creatures you find there. And these are truly something that I could see waking you up drenched in cold sweat. Some of them look like bugs, others like failed entrants to the Alien movie franchise, and there are those too that eerily resemble my boss's wife. And these, my dear viewer, are not only the most vile-looking ones of them all, but also the deadliest. Just the way she is. Each of the monsters has a weak point or points, and discovering them fast and then taking advantage of is a key to success. Also, you have an energy shield that you can use when being attacked. No, let me rephrase that so that you'd understand better. You have an energy shield and always use it when being attacked, as otherwise your energy will melt away faster than a candle thrown into a fire pit. It's worth pointing out that the exploration sections allow for very limited degree of control, as whenever there is a passageway with more than one possible way out of, you get to pick which way to go. And while it's still very limiting in terms of freedom, it adds a bit to the replayability. The quality of the graphics, especially for 1994, make up for the linearity a little. I'd say that the best way to experience the game is in a dark room with headphones on, because in that environment it can give any survival horror a run for its money. The third-person spaceship combat is just that. It's not as eye-pleasing as the exploration bits are, but it's faster, more action-packed, and at times it even feels as if it was made to be a tool used to find superhumans among the rest of us. You know, the early X-Men Professor X's Cerebro prototype designed to detect mutants with superhuman speed, reactions and accuracy. These sections are so difficult that even the most hardened shooter fans may find them infuriating and to a certain degree annoying too. Fortunately, there are only two of these, so while they will prove to you how crap of a gamer you are, persevering through them will allow you to carry on through the rest of the game. And it's worth it. Creature Shock is set in the year 2123. A great time for space exploration and a terrible one to face alien threats or be stuck on dry, crusty and nearly devoid of life-sustaining elements Earth. Since the planet is mostly depleted of any resources used for manufacturing and to feed its ever-growing population, exploration fleets are sent out deep into space to find us a new home. The super-duper, extra-turbo extremely modern spaceship Amazon is en route to Saturn to figure out who hails from it, since we know for a fact that women are from Venus and men are from Mars. If I had to guess, I'd say meerkats. Meerkats seem like animals that could come from Saturn. And if not them, then maybe pigeons. I never really liked pigeons. I saw them eating a hot dog once. Anyway, the Amazon is stopped by a huge alien ship resembling an asteroid and then encompassed by its hull, which you know, sucks. For so many reasons. And you being the adventurous type, and also the one who pulled the short straw, are sent from Earth to investigate the outer-worldly craft and to figure out what happened to the Amazon. Which you naturally do armed to the teeth with weapons and your dashing good looks. That second being completely useless, as the aliens that you'll face don't seem to be taken by your handsome mug at all. So when negotiations are out of the door, your huge-ass cannon, even more inflated ego and a mission that cannot be abandoned as humanity's future depend on it are the driving forces for you to eradicate the alien scourge. Creature Shock is an intense action game that will fill your heart with fear, your mind with doubts, especially concerning your own skills in gaming, and your screen with terrifying horrible creatures you'd not wish on your worst enemy. It's a fantastic release and one worth a playthrough if you're willing to persevere through its punishing difficulty. In Jade Cocoon, you play as Levant, an inspiring named young male protagonist living in a small town of Cyrus. A town may be a bit too big of a word for it, as it's a glorified village with not much to do other than farming, drinking and kid making. Not a word, I know, but frankly, I don't care. You get what I mean, and that's what counts. Anyway, from this point onward, make sure to listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will grab your attention like a free-booked lady would, and won't let go till you figure it out. Your father, a locally famous and beloved cocoon master, was a hunter who captured monsters living in the surrounding village of the Cyrus forests, purged their souls of corruption, and employed them to work for the local people. You got it yet, or do I need to carry on explaining? Well, for the sake of the story, I will anyway. So, on one day, your father poofed into non-existence. No, that's not right. It sounds too ominous and is not factually correct. He went hunting, or for the pack of cigarettes, or a carton of milk, and never came back. Point is, he went in the woods, disappeared forever. So, years later, it's up to you as son of a local hero to take on the mantle of a cocoon master and protect the town. I'm sure that you know now what I was hinting here at from the start, right? Yup, Jade Cocoon is basically a Pokemon game. So, a monster capturing, breeding and fighting RPG. And you know what? It's surprisingly good. Most of the world of Jade Cocoon is covered in a dense forest populated by often weird-looking creatures known as the minions. Yep, like those yellow, one-eyed freaks, but rarely yellow and usually having more eyes. Sometimes extra limbs or a pair of wings too. Your job will be to capture these creatures, purify them of their corruption and utilize them for your or your village's good. So, you can either use them to fight and defend your village, and you can fuse them with one another to create more powerful and deadly combinations of the creatures, or spawn into silk for money. Money that you'll be able to spend in villages and towns that are the only oases of peace in the world composed mostly of these deadly forests. The more of the monsters you capture, the higher your capture level will be and the easier it will be for you to collect them in the future. It's not a surprising mechanic in the slightest, but it makes some of the more repeatable parts of the game a bit less so. Each of the minions has its own set of elemental attacks, which are passed between them from generation to generation, meaning that fused minions not only have their appearance based on their parents, but you also get to customize their abilities, picking the best of both worlds, so to speak. Battles are turn-based and mostly not randomized, as you can actually see the enemy that you're approaching, and the combat is based on an expanded rock-paper-scissors mechanic based on the minions' inherent elements. So wind beats earth, earth beats water, water beats fire, and fire beats wind. It is worth to note though that fused minions may have more than one element attached to them, so it's possible with time and patience to create universal ones that will become the universal soldiers, the killing machines, fitting of your dangerous mission. To find the demon responsible for the curse that made most of your town's citizens fall into permanent and deep slumber. You may have noticed by now that I use village and town interchangeably, and there is a simple explanation for that. I'm a silly potato and fail to see the difference, or educate myself on it. So, it is what it is. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Jade Cocoon is one of the first games ever that I can recall using sorta New Game Plus mechanics. Though it's not really a New Game Plus per se, but ability to carry on playing after the main story concludes. You get to continue adventure in the new area known as the Eternal Corridor, which name tells you exactly what it actually is. It's a randomly generated area composed out of corridors and open locations and filled with monsters. And these are stronger, more advanced and even boss versions of the minions that you fight in the base game. There are new items, equipment and skins for your minions that you can get in the Eternal Corridor too, and it's a fun addition, definitely prolonging Jade Cocoon's stay in your PlayStation CD drive. If you like Pokemon games or enjoy min-maxing and finding the best combinations of skills/monsters, Jade Cocoon is definitely worth your time. If the answer to this is no, give it a chance anyway, you may find yourself enjoying it despite that. Superfrog is my most favorite platformer of the 1990s and actually one of my most favorite overall to this very day. I'm sure that it's not a surprise to those who'd been subscribed to the channel for a while, seen my review of it or my older top 10 Amiga platformers video. A video I should really remake as it's a bit outdated by now, but the sentiment towards our green-skinned fellow stands nonetheless. And yeah, I love Superfrog. The game is really huge and composed out of 24 regular levels divided into 6 differently themed worlds. It also features 2 additional special horizontal scrolling shoot-em-up sections, which are not present in the PC port for some reason, and a final boss fight against the antagonist of the game, the Evil Witch, which funny enough is super easy as compared to the rest of the game. The levels scroll in all 8 directions and backtracking is often required to fulfill the objectives that will open the end level door, and the objective is always the same, to collect plenty enough coins, which interestingly enough you cannot spend anywhere. So I suppose they're used to pay off the troll guarding the end level door. To be clear, there are no trolls in the game, I'm just questioning the requirement for progression being coins. Anyway, Superfrog is chock full of hidden areas, coin and treasure caches. In virtually every single level, there are numerous hidden passages that you have to hunt down and uncover, and coins stuck in least expected places, like unusual cloud formations, oddly placed mushrooms, or even some castle paintings. The enemies are aplenty too, and uniquely themed to each world, divided into those that can be defeated by either jumping on the Mario style, so by crushing their skulls under our caped hero's weight, or with a use of your collectible yo-yo-like green projectile. and also those that are indestructible and have to be avoided, like the plague or diarrhea, so with all your might so that you won't have to face them, or evacuate them out of your body. Either is rather unpleasant. Many of the enemies have their own patterns of movement, sometimes attack or other underlying mechanics that are worth learning and keeping in mind. And finally, Superfrog is, well, super, but only because he can use many of the spread across all levels pickups. Some of them speed you up, or down for that matter too, others are energy refills or are there just for points. But the three most important of them all are the green projectiles, wings and invincibility in the form of invisibility. First gives you that also useful yo-yo attack, second allows you to fly for a short distance and glide when falling, and the last, when you grab it, turns you invisible into a literal pair of two wobbly floating eyes running around the screen causing mayhem. Whatever you do, however, whichever powers you might have, there is just one thing to remember and be wary of, and it's the spikes, because spikes always equal instant death. Period. Depending on the number of coins, fruit and treasures collected and how fast you were able to breeze through the level, you may be awarded a number of credits between the stages, and these can be collected or spent in the slot machine minigame for extra bonuses. Truth be told, most of these bonuses are a bit meh, but the level codes aren't, and the slot machine is the only way of obtaining them. And with them unlocked and written down, you can start the game from a particular level on consecutive playthroughs, and not always go from the very first. The two aforementioned shoot-'em-up sections do not require you to collect coins at all, and only survive them. They're a nice change of pace, though their presence in the game is not really necessary, which is probably the reason why PC Outing cut them out. All of that is fine and dandy, but why is Superfrog one of my most favorite games ever? Well, if all I just said somehow isn't enough to explain, and let me tell you, give it an hour of your time and you'll agree that it is, it's also because, like many games of the yesteryear, I mostly played Superfrog with a friend. And as per usual, we would switch control whenever one of us would lose a life or completed a level, or when we knew that the other was better at a particularly challenging stage. I did really well in the castle and used to remember all its secrets, and he could wrap his head around all those circus areas and its fast travel pipes that gave me headaches. Point is, Superfrog is an incredible game alone, but in couch co-op joystick swap environment, it's so much better. And yeah, you heard that right, joystick. Because the Amiga version is the ultimate one and the only one quote-unquote complete. Oh, and forget the 2013 re-release that you can find on Steam, it's trash. Oh man, this is going to be a mess. I originally planned on making it all about Pinball FX 3, a game you may have heard me citing in my videos as the best pinball available for home systems, sometimes even followed by a loud and proud period. But the series are such a mess in terms of their naming, renaming, subnaming or whatever, that I have to give you a tiny bit of a backstory, tell you what they're all about, and just treat this entry in today's video as the only ever game in Forgotten Treasure series to cover all released games and not one in particular. So, focus, because I'm gonna try to get us through the quicksand of the names that the game is known under without sinking. The two main ones are Pinball FX and Zen Pinball, with different numbers attached to them. The split here was rather simple initially, and the FX were console releases while the Zen was PC and mobile. Note the was here please, because since then they've mixed a lot and I'm not sure what goes where and why anymore. Then there is Pinball M2, which is a standalone release containing mature themed tables not present in any of the main ones. If that wasn't enough, there were more standalone releases like Marvel Pinball, Star Wars Pinball, Bethesda Pinball, Universal Pinball and Williams Pinball 2, and yes, while they were all available separately, often split in separate volumes and not cheap, in time they were all incorporated into the main games as additionally purchasable tables. And the main games are the ones that we'll talk about as they contain everything that's there aside from those Pinball M adult tables. So, the original first Pinball FX, aka Zen, released in 2007 and took the world by storm. It offered a single free table and a selection of really cool additional ones to purchase and instantly became a hit, being the most fun and playable pinball game ever made. Not necessarily the most realistic, because neither of the FX Zen pinballs really are, but definitely more fun. Chock full of ramps, bumpers, places to score big and fast, minigames, combos, it was a bliss. And it sold well and got more and more tables as the time went by. So, in 2010, Zen Studios, the developers, released Pinball FX 2, a follow-up to the original, also offering a single free table, an ability to reacquire the ones that were in the first, and a few new ones, also expanding on the number of these with time. 2017 brought us Pinball FX 3 following the identical release formula and being even bigger cash cow than the first two. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, truly showed what a marvelous, playable and ginormous game it could be. You had leaderboards split into local, friends and online, and for all the game modes. Since we're on the subject, FX3 offered extra game modes, dozens upon dozens of tables, a cool 100 of them to be precise if I remember correctly, and improved graphics, sounds and physics. It was, and to many of us still is, the best pinball game ever made. All these tables were naturally sold as separate add-ons either individually or in packs, but getting them all could probably get you over $1,000 even if purchased on promos. And that, kids, is how you make money. That and excellent gameplay, design and a feeling of realism, even if it's more than obvious that most of these tables could never work in real life. And then 2023 came. The pandemic just ended, and Pinball FX dropped the numbering and came back to the original FX naming without 4, 5, 11 or whatever the else number it should get by then. And Pinball FX is the newest and technically the best out of them all. It did move from Zen Studios' in-house engine to Unreal Engine 4 though, which means that while it offers all the latest graphical bells and whistles, like HDR, ray tracing and upscaling, apart naturally from those that the Unreal Engine 5 brought in, it has a higher hardware requirements too. Aside from the selection of pretty fun new ones, most old tables are naturally available, for extra cost that is, and it's the most visually striking and well-playing game in the entire series to date, and in the entire history of video game pinball too. It offers free tables and they're pretty fun, so even in this basic unpaid form, Pinball FX is an excellent release. And between you and I, hopefully the last, cause repurchasing of the same tables with each new outing is a bit dodgy in my books. All in all, if you're a fan of computerized or consoleized pinball, there is no better choice than Pinball FX games. And since the base game in all of its versions is free, it is also easy to try out so that you know if you want to invest in additional tables and expand on your collection. How do you like today's picks? Did you play it or still play any of them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're down there tapping away all those words of wisdom, why not hit those like, sub and bell icons too, for YouTube to let you know when I release something new. For now though I'm out, so have a good one, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.